Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. Today's topic is on the document management and how it's simplified on the cloud. We're going to talk about what does document management mean for a legal office or a law office. We're going to focus our attention on the cloud storage technology and how the advent of technology now provides you with the capabilities to be able to store information in the cloud, especially the documents. That way you have access to that in a very secure fashion. We're going to talk about the different options that you have, and just as a note is that this particular webinar is not accredited for CPD hours, so just a bit of a housekeeping. But it's going to be a fun-filled session where we're going to highlight a lot of important components that you need to keep in mind when you think about document management for your law office. Please do send your questions in through our chat window. We have our support staff on call who could answer that either during the session or during the last 5 to 10 minutes that we have for Q&A. And once again, I highly encourage our participants today. Thank you for joining us. I do highly encourage you to further your participation by asking the questions, and you're happy to answer through the chat window as well. Okay? Like every other uLaw webinar, this particular webinar has an agenda as well. So we're first going to highlight what does document management mean in the cloud. Okay, so we'll take a step back, discuss what document management is, and what does that mean to you, and what does the cloud technology provide to you as the access points, and the advantages and some of the disadvantages of that. We've often discussed the key players who are still continuing to be the key player in this area. Now, we've delivered this presentation for many months now, and it's still one of those most sought out webinars where we get maximum participation for a non-CPD webinar. And we still continue to see these three players play a very important role, including OneDrive. That's another new player that a lot of the law offices and law firms use. And we're going to continue down the path of discussing how cloud solutions integrate with desktops today. So a little bit of cheat sheet about how you could have a synchronization, if you will, between the cloud and, let's say, a particular individual machine that you use. And then we're going to kind of focus on uLaw, the Canadian legal accounting and practice management software, and how we, as our software, integrate with Google Drive, very similar integration with Dropbox Box and OneDrive. And we'll take the last, before Q&A, about 15 minutes, give or take, to actually demonstrate how using uLaw you would integrate document management right into it by integrating with, let's say, Google Drive, for example, and showcase how all the documents would be available to you in the cloud at any time access. Okay, so as I let our friends into the webinar, let's really talk about cloud-based document management, and we'll kind of look at the pros. And when we talk about document management, as a law office, as a legal office, you're often going to come across the need to use document management as a means to not only generate documents, so right from your client intake form to a conflict screening report down to an invoice. These are all the documents that you touch upon day in and day out. Okay? The aspect to that document management is how easy is it for you to not only store that document, but how easy is it for you to retrieve that document, and do you have the access to those documents at any time, or are you restricted by any means of being able to access the document when most needed? And are you able to access those information or documents from any device? Us being a very mobile-centric ecosystem today, with a big part of the internet access being on mobile phones and iPads and Android tablets, even laptops have seen a huge decrease in the uptake. So most of the documents that we see that are managed, maintained, transacted over the internet, especially after 6 o'clock, for example, are through these mobile devices, and we believe that that's going to be the trend to carry forward. So how can document management be more seamless, accessible, and available across all devices? The answer to that is that information or document system being accessible through the cloud. And I say that it's accessible through the cloud because not only can you use document management systems that are naturally built for cloud, you have the opportunity to always use other mechanisms like remote desktop through the cloud to access your desktop machines. So I'm not restricting by saying that cloud is the only cloud-based solutions are the only way, but the cloud technology is the only way that you're going to be able to access documents at any time, even if it resides in one individual location. Okay? So if I were to consider the pros, why would someone consider cloud-based document management? Cost effectiveness stands out as first and foremost point. Okay? The second to follow suit that is the convenience. So the ability for you to access that information anytime, anywhere, using any device. Cost effectiveness. So if you consider a document management system on the cloud, such as Google Drive, we speak about how right off the gate, they provide you with 15 gigabytes of free storage space. Okay? There are other players that have their own restrictive ways. For example, Dropbox provides you with 5 gigabytes of free storage. The box provides you with a very 3 to 5 gigabytes of free storage. You do have the opportunity to then pay a very minimal amount, let's say $3 or $5, up to I think $15 for as much as 1 terabyte or more of usage of space. So the fact that it is highly commoditized allows for the consumer to make it very appealing and cost effective. And what is the convenience that the cloud storage provides you as a legal professional is that it provides you anytime and anywhere access to those documents, very particularly using any device. So there are no restrictions in how you can access that information. Then comes the million-dollar question. How secure are these documents? Okay? So everybody has their own perception, their own knowledgeable thought process about security or perceived security. A document on the cloud is as safe as long as it's protectable and has the right encryption methodologies and has the right process to manage the security, is as secure as your document in your laptop, and vice versa. The chances of your documents being stolen when your laptop is stolen is a lot more susceptible than it being available on the cloud. So security and access to that is getting mature with cloud storage every day. So now today you have bank-grade securities such as uLaw, that's about 256 encrypted. So is Google Drive, so is Dropbox, so are the other document cloud-based storage systems. Automated backups. So let's take a step back and consider if these documents were not necessarily on the cloud. Okay? And let's say the responsibility was to that legal professional to manage, maintain, and back up. And why do you need backup is if something were to go wrong and your data was corrupt or you lost it, you can always point to the most recent backup and help you recover all those electronic repositories of those documents that you've stored. And that's why it's important. And with most of them, if not all, of the cloud-based document storage systems, they provide you with the facility to have automated backups. It obviously doesn't seem as this amazing feature set, but when shit hits the fan, my apologies to use that example, but if that is the case where you've actually hit a rock bottom, having that behind the scene, having those automated backups are going to go a long way to recover all those documents. The last point, and this is an equally important point, is the ability now for you to store all of these documents in multiple formats. So when you consider the different types and formats of documents that a legal office touches upon, it ranges from Excel sheets, which could have accounting information, to Word documents. That could be court forms, like a small claim court form is traditionally on a Word document. You could have PDFs, retainer letters that could be in either Word or PDF. So, and you could have presentations that you've made to your client about your service and your capabilities. So you could have scanned documents. So you can have GIF files, image files. You recently scanned a driver's license for conflict screening. You probably have a TIFF file. So here are 4 or 5 different types of formats that we've already discovered that a legal office is going to be touching upon. Without restrictions, cloud storage systems allows you to upload those documents in its original format. So there's no conversion process, right? So you want to consider and keep that in mind as well as you continue down that path. This webinar is going to be recorded and available both on our YouTube channel as well as to all the participants that do join today, and hence you would have access to this particular slide that talks about the different pricing plans that these top 4 cloud storage systems provide, with us doing a little bit of homework, with cost being a key factor, everything else being the same. We consider Google Drive to kind of be a top contender because of the fact that it's free for about 15 gigabytes of free storage. Now, if you have purchased an enterprise version or an Office 365 for other purposes for your office, I believe OneDrive provides you with a very equally compelling price plan. So I would consider Google Drive and OneDrive, depending on your situation, kind of to be the top competitors in terms of acceptance, as well as price, as well as feature set, very closely followed by Dropbox and Box, which are leading cloud-based storage systems. And we highly encourage you as the legal professional to do the due diligence and do your homework, do the research before you consider one of them, if you do consider one of them. Now we've kind of looked at the top 4 or 5 pros, which were pretty straightforward. You've come to hear and touch these great advantages cloud-based systems provide. Let's have a look at some of the cons. Bottom line, the need for internet. Now, having said that, things have changed. Things are maturing. Document storage systems do understand that there's a need for internet, and they're improving their features as well. For example, OneDrive or Dropbox does allow you or gives you the capability to store documents offline. So they allow you to download it, and let's say a very important document that you need access to at any time, regardless, even when you're flying. So I shouldn't be saying that. You can actually purchase internet when you're flying in certain flights. But let's say you're actually at a spot where there's no internet, you still need access to those documents. These cloud-based systems do now provide you the feature set of being able to download it when there is internet and making it available when there's no internet. So as much as I want to say that a need for internet is a must to access all the documents, you do have now the opportunity to download those very important documents and always make them offline. The next con, obviously, is the storage limit and an incremental pricing plan. When you purchase, let's say, a hard drive for yourself, it's a one-time cost, and you know what you're getting into, and you pretty much choose the largest storage space and pay the price for that. The fact that you're buying a cloud-based storage system, it is a very modular incremental cost, which is almost on a monthly basis. If not, you can purchase annual prices for these storage systems, and obviously you have to now pay for the appropriate storage that you need for your law firm. Okay? That being said, again, it's not a dent in your pocket to purchase 1 terabyte of Google Drive because it's $5 to $6 a month. Kind of given the bigger picture and the benefits that it can provide your law firm, it's still more cost effective. One of the most important cons that you want to keep in mind and ensure that you do the research is obviously when you do choose the cloud-based storage system, you are governed by the end provider's service level agreement. So SLA stands for the service level agreement. They dictate the maintenance support, how they would support you if there is a problem. Is this a 24/7? Is this an email support? Or do I actually get a live person in? Or is this a chat? So it's really important to consider, and as tedious as it may sound, it might actually be time well spent to review the SLA and support agreement that are available online for all these systems. The fourth point is a perception, and the perception really is a lack of control. So it's on the cloud. What if they have access to my information? What if they take away my documents? What if I stop my pricing plan? Would I have access to all my documents, or is it gone? There's no internet. What do I do? So there's always this perceived lack of control when it's on the cloud. And the only remedy for that perception, if you will, is time and the confidence that this market and the ecosystem and your friends and colleagues provide you. So you're going to see 9 out of 10 legal professionals being confident in using it. You may take that extra leap of faith in moving forward with that. As a law society, they obviously leave the onus and the responsibility up to the legal professional to do the due diligence before they choose any cloud-based system. Okay? And you probably should outline that. A good example is you outlining that in your agreements with your clients. Make them aware that if you are a very strong proponent of cloud-based system for the convenience that you have for your legal office, you probably want to make that part of the agreement so that they're well aware and that's well entrenched in your retainer agreement or any other client-facing documents that you may have. Okay? And we're going to talk about steps that you can take. It's not such a scary situation after all. So moving along, a quick snapshot in terms of how uLaw works with the Google Drive implementation, and it's going to be a very similar rollout to Dropbox, OneDrive, and Box. It's a one-time setup when you actually access a file within uLaw and access the Documents tab, and you have the opportunity, and we're going to go through this in the demonstration as we move along, but it's a one-time access of the password and the setup between uLaw and your cloud-based storage system. You have the opportunity to refresh, because as you start throwing in documents, and let's say you share a Google Drive within within your office with other colleagues, and maybe there's one person who's doing the client intake and they're always scanning documents. As soon as they drop that into Google Drive, uLaw picks it up, it refreshes it, and in the context of that matter, provides you with that driver's license as part of that client intake. The ability for you now to drag and drop. So you're not copy pasting, you're pretty much just drag and dropping, and most importantly, you're now able to organize it, tag it, and chronologically have access to this information right within uLaw. Okay? And the last point is something we're going to cover as we demonstrate it, and this might just be the answer to many of the perceived fear factor that there is to the cloud storage. Now, it's always in your responsibility and it's in your control to encrypt these documents in your machine, in your desktop, before you upload it into any cloud storage system. Now, when I say encrypt, I'm talking about password protecting it. So you may want to put a little password against a document, a Word document, Excel sheet, presentation, PDF. Now doing that obviously gives you that extra protection, because even if someone were to have access to the digital copy of that document, they would not have access to the contents of that digital copy unless they put in that password. So you're creating a retainer letter. There's a lot of business intelligence. There's a lot of proprietariness in that document. After you've signed it, if you want to upload it into the cloud, you may want to consider password protecting it. That way you're giving it that extra layer of security, but also taking advantage of everything that the cloud has to offer. Okay? And we're going to highlight through that integrated demonstration as to how you can accomplish it. Besides the password protection, if you want to go one step further and encrypt it, which is almost, a glorified password protection, but definitely keep in mind there are tools out there, such as BoxCryptor is one of the most used tools. Cypherx and AXCrypt are just some client-side encryption tools that you have in your arsenal to further extend the security and safeguarding those documents. Now, why at all integrate a client or practice management software with the document management software, and what are the benefits that uLaw can provide its end clients through that integration? Now let's consider this. uLaw as a practice management software, by design, allows clients to download information or documents from uLaw and store it anywhere they choose. You can actually generate a client intake form, or you can generate an invoice or a statement of activity right within uLaw and download it into your local computer. You can download it into an external hard drive. As long as you're able to be responsible in arranging it, chronologically sorting it, and making it easy for yourself to search as well as retrieve those documents, by all means, use what's most convenient. Okay, so if you found a certain way in which you can manage those documents, doesn't have to be on the cloud, it's in my laptop, desktop, then you are carrying that laptop and desktop, or you're having to spend money on a remote connection to have access to those documents. If you don't need that convenience, then it's a good option to stay local. But it's equally important to note that with the advent of technology, with having cloud storage systems, it does provide you with a bit of a competitive edge. The ability for you to now generate an invoice and make it available on a portal so that your clients can access it, sign it, and send it back to you is a convenience and a user experience that you are able to provide. And in today's context, it's an expected user experience from your end clients. Okay? But that being said, a benefits of an integrated document software, beyond the bells and whistles of being able to drag and drop, the most important aspect is that it's well organized right within the context of the file that you're looking to search for. So when you search for a file, let's be pragmatic. You're searching a file either based on the client's information or based on the matter or the file that's regarding that client or that matter. Okay? Or it's in the context of your office. So let's say it's your monthly reconciliation report for the month of March, April, May that you've stored. So it's within these three contexts predominantly, right? You're storing information about contacts. You've got his driver's license or her driver's license. You've got a client intake form, that specific customer. Now you've got invoices. Now that's not only specific to a customer, that's specific to a matter, because you may have multiple matters for the same customer. And as I said, you then have business-related documents. You have your reconciliation reports. You may have master letterheads, business templates, etc. How easy have you made yourself and your law office to retrieve such information when required? That's that's the question. And cloud storage provides you, by design, the flexibility, and integrating it with the practice management gives you that context, because your files, your contacts, and a legal accounting system such as uLaw, which also brings in business accounting aspects to it, allows you now to store all of your business-related documents right within it. So you've got the cloud storage convenience, and you've got the context right within uLaw, and by combining it, you now have a powerful tool that gives you the ability to search for any document or information within a context. Okay? And finally, as I mentioned, it is all about accountability management, ensuring that you have an activity history of all these documents. And it's not necessarily a version control, but at least an activity history of what's come in, left. You're able to generate who generated that document. So if you combine it now with the power of a practice management tool such as uLaw, you're able to not only download that document, you're able to give it context as to who generated that document, right? And we're all used to and are continuing down that path of ease of use and convenience. Having all of that information in one place is just more smart, and the ease of use pays for itself. We've covered this, so this summer, finally we have the integration with Dropbox, so by end of June, we're going to have Dropbox and OneDrive. Obviously, this is a much older slide. The reason why we put that is we had OneDrive integrated around November, December 2016, but we've now revamped that integration. We've took it out, and we've revamped that integration, especially with Office 365 changing the way it delivered itself to make it available now in the August timeframe. Okay, so for those who did expect the OneDrive integration in November, you just have to wait a little bit longer, only because of the better things that we're able to provide through that integration. Okay, so quick roadmap: by end of June, you're going to have Dropbox and OneDrive, and Box, and by end of August, September, you're going to have the access to OneDrive with a lot more of Office 365 features inbuilt. Okay, so before I jump into a demonstration of document storage and how it's further integrated with the uLaw, a quick word from the sponsors. uLawPractice, we are a Canadian legal accounting and practice management software. And for those who don't know us and have joined us today, we're very proudly Canadian, and if you're a legal professional and you want to stay compliant, have peace of mind, and actually be able to access all of your information, please check us out. We do have a 30-day trial. There's no obligation to use us, and we do provide, as part of our onboarding session, the ability to migrate your old files as well as reconcile you for the first couple of months at no charge. Okay? So now that we've spent the first half an hour kind of reviewing these slides, let's use that context in some real-time examples. Now to do that, I'm now going to log in to my fictitious uLaw account using my very favorite James Bond, who just unfortunately died last week, Mr. Roger Moore. And I'm logged in as this fictitious lawyer. And we're going to talk and really highlight some of the different documents, the different storage types, the data types, and understand how it's well integrated. Okay? So as a first step, as a kind of a prerequisite, if you will, for you to be able to integrate Google Drive with uLaw, you would have to consider going into our settings, right into Matter, which is where we allow you to integrate the documents. Right at the bottom, you have the opportunity to say where you want these Matter documents to go. Okay? So I'm going to choose Google Drive, and I was already set to that. So that's kind of the prerequisite, making sure that you've now done that touchpoint integration with Google Drive. Okay. Now, For the purposes of this demonstration, let me quickly sign out of my Google Drive. Now let's jump back into uLaw. Now, before I even go into integrating document management with uLaw, let me first start generating documents. Let's kind of use a few examples, a PDF, a Word document, an Excel sheet, and let's explore how you can maybe encrypt this or password protect it. A little bit of an added advantage to password protecting it and how that is made simple. And it's not a uLaw feature, it's that the nativity of the actual file itself. So to do that, let me take an example of a matter and let me download a retainer agreement. So let me choose a retainer letter. I would do a simple retainer letter, and let me choose an MS Word. A Word document, and you've come to see this many times. And if you are a Mac user, you are able to use the Word version for Mac. And let's say I put in a $1,000 retainer, and I'm going to generate that retainer letter. Okay. Now, if you notice, uLaw generated or downloaded that file right into your laptop or desktop or that particular device that you used to generate this document. So obviously it has the customer's name, it has the file name, it even has the $1,000, the disbursement cost, all from your settings. That's $1,000. So technically you're going to print this, sign this, scan it to make it electronically available. Even better, you are now able to electronically sign this if you have an electronic signature already done. And you're probably wanting to save this. So to save it, you're probably going to say Save As, Word Document. Obviously now you have the opportunity to save this to your desktop. Okay, so you can save it on your desktop, or you may want to consider using Dropbox, Google Drive, or Box. The most important thing to note is I now have a local desktop synchronization app that I have downloaded for each of these different cloud storage providers. So I go into Google and I search for a Google Drive desktop app, and I'm able to download this. And what that does is that it automatically syncs with the cloud storage and provides it to me at my fingertips right within this, let's say this one laptop that you use. Again, defeats the purpose, but if you are used to using a certain device, you can download this and make it available as a utility for ease of use right within that particular individual machine that you're using. Now you could store it into an external hard drive. So really, uLaw allows you to store these documents anywhere. But let's go one step further and look at our save options. So I'm not sure if everybody know that this is, look at general options. Sorry, I clicked on general options. So now you have the capability by using that tool to provide a password to not only open this document, but also even modify this document. So let me say the password to open is uLaw. And I'm going to give it the same password, uLaw. And if it's okay for it to be read-only, you can go ahead and check that, and it would then become a read-only document. But I'm just going to leave that unchecked for now. And I'm going to say that what I'm going to do, there you go, it's going to ask me for that password. I'm going to put it in, uLaw. Okay, so now this document is protected with the password. Now let me just store it in my desktop. Okay. Now it's going to generate that Word document. Once the document is generated, let's say I close out, and when I do open that file, it is obviously going to ask me for a password. But this is now locally stored with the password protect on it. Now let's consider another example. The example of what would this mean for it to be available right within the context of uLaw. Okay? If you were to just open that document, not knowing that it was for show us Dina, this matter, if it's just available randomly on your desktop, the chances are you may not appreciate what the document is, what context, what was the chronological sequence of documents that you generated. Okay? And that's why integrating it with a practice management software provides you that context. Now let me go ahead, and once I've created a file, I click on the Documents tab. Obviously, we ask you which Gmail account, and this is the one-time setup. Which Gmail account do you want to access for your drive? I provide the company information, and I say next. Okay. And what uLaw does when you do that, it actually goes in, creates a folder within Google Drive. Okay, so it creates a folder right under your drive called uLawPractice. It automatically does that. It creates another folder called Matter. And because the file number is something that's unique in uLaw, we create an appropriate file or a folder with that file name. So here's the matter name, show us as Dina. And now let's consider dragging and dropping that document that we just stored into this particular folder. So that document that we password protected is now drag and dropped right into Google Drive. Now if I try opening that right from Google Drive, it is going to ask me for a password. So right within Google Drive itself or any cloud-based storage system, this document is now protected. So I'm going to say uLaw. Going to open it up. Okay. Now why is it important to integrate it? When I come back into uLaw and hit refresh, you see that retainer letter that we just generated is now under the context of this file number for this particular matter. And when I try to open it, it does the same thing. It still asks you for the password to open that document. Okay? So all I've done to ensure that it's integrated with this cloud-based system is go into settings, ensure that the matter documents talk about Google Drive. Within a file, as soon as a file number is created, click on Documents, refresh the screen. It automatically then creates a folder in your Google Drive under uLawPractice. So you'd see the hierarchy here. Under your drive, it creates a folder called uLawPractice, a subfolder called Matter, and you are now able to drag and drop all the information right into this particular matter. And we went one step further. In the documents that we generated, we took Word as an example, the same thing for PDF and Excel. We password protected it, and we uploaded it into Google Drive. So if you notice, I have not password protected the driver's license, for example. I didn't intend doing it. I could always do that. I did not password protect my client ID verification document, so I'm able to access it. And that's the same control that uLaw has. So if I were to open the driver's license, I can open it right within uLaw, and it's going to pop up. But it's only for that one password protected document. When I try opening it, it most certainly requires it. So I highly encourage, even when you consider cloud storage systems, and even when you consider the integration, that you consider password protecting it because you can do it right at your level. Obviously, it's very important that you remember the password because that's always, the flip side of anything for that matter is that if you're going to password protect it, then you probably are going to need to remember that password. Okay, that's a given. That's about the only flip side. Now, there are some additional advantages to the integration. So let's say you click on the properties, click on description. You can even tell yourself this is a password protected document. So there's a bit of a collaboration between yourself and your colleagues, or a bit of a note that relates to that particular document. You can go one step further, and once you've updated that information, let's make it a little bit more meaningful. So once you have that description describing what that document is and its nature, going back into uLaw and refreshing it, and as I said, the ability for us to synchronize the collaborative aspect to the cloud storage and uLaw provides you right with that context. So right at the gate, you know that this is password protected, and well, you do know that it's show me. You didn't have to type it, but it's available. It also tells you the size, who that person is who uploaded it, and the type of document that it is. The Word document, PDF, image file. Okay? And most importantly, it's available in a very chronological sequence that shows you the activity history that's happened. Okay? So for this particular file, you first did 31st of May, we drag and drop the driver's license. Same day, we generated the client ID verification, and then later on the week, we now generated the retainer letter. So on and so forth for all the documents that you generate, you can make that available right within this. Now, even better, we spoke about the desktop utility. So obviously I had Google Drive open, and I dragged and dropped a particular document. Let me show you now another convenience if you'd have that utility downloaded one time in your machine. So let's go ahead and let's generate a statement of activity. Or I'm not sure. Let me go ahead. There is a statement of activity. So let me just put a final closure docket. We'll toggle this to be a flat rate, $500. And I'm going to save it. And let me quickly generate an invoice. Okay, so as I generate that invoice, which is another type of a document, I'm going to download it. Traditionally, what I could have done is I can drag and drop it right within my Google Drive folder. Instead, what I could also do, open the file, and save as right into my Google Drive instead of having to drag and drop it. I just have to choose the particular matter, and this gives you the flexibility of not having to drag and drop it and have your Google Drive open, because not all of them have access to a web-based Google Drive. The desktop utility makes it easier, convenient, and purposeful to do it right within the context. Okay, so you can either drag and drop it into the cloud storage, but if you have the desktop utility, you can now just save that document right like how you would save it in a local computer's drive for that extra convenience. Another question, obviously, is can I create subfolders? You can always go right-click, create a new folder, and let's say you have invoices as a subfolder. that gets created right within the context, and that's also made available in uLaw as a folder. There you go. You have a separate invoices folder. Clicking that takes you to the invoices folder right within that matter. Okay? So you do have the opportunity to create subfolders and have access to that as well. So this particular invoice that we just generated, it might just be easier for you to chronologically save it as invoice. And now you can start creating subfolders like client intake as a one step of the workflow. Maybe certain aspects of the legal office does that. There are others who do that. You could have others for payments, etc., etc. Okay. So now we looked at how you can password protect all the documents that you generate in and outside of uLaw, and how that would probably be a good practice if you are concerned about the security aspect of any digital file that you upload into a cloud storage system. We looked at the benefit of having a cloud storage system and having it available and accessible. We then looked at the convenience of the integration with a legal accounting practice management software such as uLaw to give it the context of how easy it is to search for that document. Okay? So you know that if you're looking for Show Me's documents, that is right within the matter of Mr. Show Me. So you basically are just looking for, so if it's the receptionist or your client intake person looking for that information, you're typing in Show Me, you're going into the client's matter, you're choosing which matter it was for, jumping into documents, and there you have all the documents right available. And this is available to you in the cloud, not only your desktop, your laptop, available on your iPad, even available on your phone. Okay, so that's kind of the convenience that it gives across anywhere access, anytime, using any device. Kind of going back to my presentation, kind of the last slide that I wanted to leave you with before I jump into the Q&A session is we looked at the drag and drop, the ability to use the desktop utility, which I highly encourage you to explore. And basically you're just going into your Google and searching for it. You basically have to say Google Drive desktop app. And all you have to do is install that. Install Google Drive for Mac PC, click on it, and it also gives you tips of how you can synchronize your files anywhere. Okay, and it's the same thing for Dropbox, OneDrive, or any other cloud storage system that you come across. So not specific to Google Drive. It's pretty much available now as a commodity to almost all of the cloud-based systems. Okay. And the most important thing to keep in mind is, on an average, you're going to come across anywhere from 5 to maybe 20 documents to 30 documents, depending on the nature of the file, depending on the complexity of the file, and if the particular file involves court forms, right, in many cases. So let's quickly look at the additional parties. There is a defendant, some adjusters, so I'm just going to go ahead quickly and generate a small claims form. In uLaw, you can generate forms for various silos of legal practice. I'm just going to say Ottawa Courthouse, and I'm going to generate a plaintiff's claim. In a small claim court traditionally is a Word document. Obviously, this is information about your client, about all other parties that are involved in that particular file. So it is sensitive information that you are now responsible for, but you still do have to generate this form and online submit it to the court. Once you're done with generating this document, where we almost pre-fill all of the information for you, a court form in a Word template is as good as that retainer letter that we just did. So if you've signed this, if you've pre-filled this, same concept, Word document, protected. Remember the password, so maybe hold on to one standard password for all documents. And where do you save it? You save it using your desktop utility if you choose to save it on the Google Drive, right here. Okay? Yeah. Now it's done. It's going to convert, it's going to password protect it, and it's going to store it all done less than a minute. Okay. And by having that discipline, you've kind of inbuilt the ease of search and the peace of mind that you always have a process of how to retrieve that information. So you're not scampering for it in the last minute. And even more important, that it is by default, by design, available in a chronological manner with an activity history that's behind it. Okay? Okay. So with that, I would wrap up today's presentation, and with the remaining 6 to 8 minutes that we have, I would appreciate you to participate in the Q&A. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got our first question in. How do you differentiate between a file and a folder? That's a good question, and I'm assuming that's the question because I do have a subfolder under a folder. So in uLaw, when you go into the documents, all your standard files are available as, if you look at the additional fields, this is what defines what type of document or object it is. If you really look at a folder, it's actually got, the apps.folder. And when you click on it, it obviously takes you not into a file, but it takes you into that particular folder. But from a very visual perspective, you're looking for any folders. And in our roadmap, we do have it to be color-coded, so it kind of differentiates a folder from a regular file. Hope that answers that question. That is a really good question, though. Okay, how my next question, we spoke about different types. How about Excel? Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't have an example at the time, but I'm always happy to generate an Excel sheet. So let's say I'm looking at a client's trust. Let us say I am generating it as an Excel, and I'm doing it for a certain date range. This is the trust ledger, right? And to be quite honest, it's as good as saving it as a Word document. Same step. The advantage is that it allows you to store it as a native file. So when I go back into Matters, it takes, a few seconds to synchronize between the drive and uLaw. But let's say once it's synchronized, you would now notice that that would be an Excel file. Okay? I'm looking forward to any more questions from the audience, the participants. Okay, perfect. I have another question. I think the question, okay, let me read this out. How do you bring documents outside of uLaw? Or should we always be storing documents from within uLaw? I think the question, if I can understand this better, there are documents that you will generate out of uLaw as you use your practice management software. A good example, I would think, outside of uLaw would be what I showed you in terms of a driver's license. So let's say you do a client intake and you get the client's driver's license. You are able to scan it. That's kind of outside of uLaw, and it's kind of made available on your local machine as an image file. So let me maybe use another example. Okay, let me use the same example. And let me just delete. And again, you can have permission right within your folders as to who can delete it, who has access to it, etc. Right? So not everybody can actually delete it like that. Okay, so let's say I have a driver's license that I've just recently scanned. I just drag and drop it. And this was a driver's license was never a file within uLaw. Okay, so this is a file that's coming outside of uLaw, but it's the same context. The context here is the matter file. So as long as you're storing it in the context, that's all that matters. Okay. So yes. So same concept applies. You can collaborate. You can add the description, and you will notice that within uLaw, as long as it's in that context of that folder with the file name, that is available. Hope that answers your question. So here's a driver's license outside of uLaw, and here are all the documents that were generated from within uLaw. And I think I have time for maybe one more question. And once again, I do thank you for joining today, and please do participate using the Q&A. And please do make your recommendations through the survey that we've sent you if you're interested in providing with additional topics that we could cover as part of our webinar series, including CPDs. And we look forward to collaborating with the community on that. Okay, I think there's a question about how much is uLaw. It's not within the context of this webinar, but I would highly encourage you to visit our website, uLawPractice.com, and we have the information there. But right at the back, we're priced in Canadian, say either $34 or $44. But if you're an entrepreneur, if it's your first year in business, or you're a student, first year in business, then for the first year, we provide it to you at $29. So it's all available right within pricing within the uLawPractice website. So it's either month on month at $44, one time $408, which is a $34 value, or if you're a first year entrepreneur, or a student, or a student, then for the first year, it's $29 a month. And yeah, you can subscribe for our CPDs as well, which is free of cost. So we provide one CPD every month. Okay. If there aren't any more questions, well, I thank you once again for joining me in today's webinar. I hope this was your time well spent and an informational one, and I look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great weekend.